Hi, welcome to Star Power Alchemy YouTube. My name is Alejandra Sofia, bringing to you the astrological news from the macrocosm to the microcosm of you to help you navigate your reality and the times we are living in. I'm tuning into the partial lunar eclipse on July 16th, 2019 at 2:38 p.m. Pacific time. Please check out in my descriptions below the new moon solar eclipse on July 2nd, as well as the current Mercury retrograde that we're inside of at this time from July 7th until July 31st. And in the midst of that, we have a full moon in Capricorn with the partial eclipse. So first, the setup to really get inside of what's happening. And we started off this month with a new moon solar eclipse, and it's through the sign of Cancer at 11 degrees. That sets off a tone, an energetic of evolution, of getting deep inside, especially with the eclipses, because in a nutshell, on the most simple terms, eclipses have to do with beginnings and endings. And when it involves the moon, because it always involves the moon and the sun, it's directly a relationship between your true self, your true identity, in you emerging as fully and radiating your individuality, being self-expressed, in a rhythm relationship with the moon, which is the memory holder. It's the mother moon, the memory holder of all memories. And so there's a big sifting psychological journey that we go through with the moon to really come into a rhythm inside of ourselves that is coming into a relationship, because the sun and moon and their relationship to each other is the living symbol of our own relationship to existence in all of its various forms. And so the primary relationship I'm speaking to is self, and each of our own journey and our own relationship with self and selfhood. And selfhood is multi-dimensional. It's not a single thing. It's a multi-dimensional experience. And so with this new moon, we are opening up this psychological territory, inward psychological territory, because it's a water sign, the Cancer new moon solar eclipse. And this full moon a partial lunar eclipse is in the sign of Capricorn, and it involves a opposition. Full moons are always oppositions, and an important thing to remember about the full moons always is the moon is always conjunct the earth, because the earth is also there in opposition to the sun. And that's the most powerful aspect to this solar eclipse, to this lunar eclipse, pardon me, on July 16th. And every new moon is a conjunction, and a conjunction is a fusion. It's a conception point. It's a seed point that initiates new action, and in various ways. And so in this case, it's emotional. It's going into the personal subjective story. It's going into the tribal circling, how we land emotionally and psychologically and unconsciously land inside of the earth and as individuals. And so it's also the holder of memory, and it is also the primary mechanism in which we get conditioned. It's through the sign of Cancer. And so there's a tremendous amount of conditioning in the sign of Cancer, and that's where the self, that's the first place. If I'm gonna name one place that's on the sign journey of which sign is responsible for convoluting us into a state of being separate from our own self and our own heart, then I would give it to Cancer if I had to choose one. But I would definitely be up against the signs Cancer and Libra, because Libra is very much, and I pronounce Libra for anyone who's listening to me for the first time. Libra is the other sign where we get socially conditioned, and these two signs, and since we're in a multidimensional journey, we cannot really truly compartmentalize each sign and keep them separate, because they are working together no matter what, no matter if they're in dysfunction or if they're in a holistic, coherent state. And so those two signs, Cancer and Libra, have very, very much to do with how we get twisted up inside of ourselves and distant from our own voice of selfhood that's guiding us, and in our own connection to the universe, and how we get caught deeply in states of confusion and entanglement that entangles that essential voice of selfhood that is positive. It is a 100% positive voice that inwardly supports us and that gets built up and supported through our primary family bonding. And if we don't get the right ingredients for our foundational evolution, our foundational grounding into this life, into this identity, into this body, then that's where the dysfunction, that is a main source of where dysfunction is happening. Another source of dysfunction is karma and past lives. So Cancer is also the holder of that, is the holder of past lives as well. There's memory, and it's a memory bank, the sign of Cancer. So this time that we're inside of, and this is very much a key point for what this full moon is about, to really get inside of this partial full moon eclipse in the sign of Capricorn, because it's a full moon. We've got the sun there in the sign of Cancer shining through the sign of Cancer onto the moon in Capricorn, that's reflecting this polarity back to each other. And so with the polarities, with the full moons, with oppositions, it's both sides now. It's not one or the other. And if we're choosing one or the other, then there's imbalance happening, because that other side of us, other facet of us is getting negated. So in this full moon partial eclipse, something is being illuminated psychologically on a primal level, because we're dealing with the cardinal signs of Cancer and Capricorn. There are 4 cardinal signs, and I look at the Cancer Capricorn polarity as the parental polarity. And the key issue happening here is where Capricorn has there's a secondary element with the sign of Capricorn. It's an earth sign with a secondary element of fire. The Cancer is a water sign with a secondary element of earth, and that's coming through the Star Genesis wisdom, Star Genesis lineage, astrological lineage that I've been taught through. And this full moon partial eclipse is illuminating where we're psychologically, the missing parts of where we're hiding from ourselves, where we're staying in delusion, where we're staying in avoidance of something. So let me go into that now, that with these key aspects. The most key aspect with the full moon, it involves a really strong opposition, because this full moon already, that is what a full moon is already in opposition, is conjunct the nodes. So there's another opposition, and it's conjunct Venus and Saturn in an exact opposition to each other. So that is the primary issue. That is the core dilemma. That is the core meaning of this time that we're in. And so this full moon, in this time that we're in of Saturn and Pluto conjuncting, because we've arrived to a Saturn and Pluto conjunction the day that Saturn moved into the 10-degree orb of Pluto on December 22nd, 2018. That significates that we are in changing times, individually and collectively, and most definitely on a large scale, because Pluto is a collective planet. So Saturn's a societal planet. Saturn's also the planet that brings meaning. It very much brings meaning and value to every individual's chart. And so in order to arrive to your Saturn, you've got to stand up inside of yourself and deal with yourself. And that's the meaning of what Saturn, who's ruling this full moon, because Saturn rules full moons in general, and the moon is in Capricorn, so it intensifies the energy of Saturn, and Saturn's in retrograde conjuncting Pluto. Really makes this a powerful month of coming to emotional, psychological terms with yourself, and face the shadows, face the ghosts, face what's haunting you, and face it with compassion. Face it with empathy towards yourself, and also face it with firmness, and really getting clear with yourself, because this is about getting clear with yourself of where you're holding out, where you're not showing up to your life. Cardinal planets have to do with showing up to your life and to the immediate present here and now environment. And one of the things that happens with the sign of Capricorn is Capricorn avoids through putting things into the future. So that really very much that future oriented, project oriented aspect of Capricorn can really take it out of the present, and also can shut down emotions, not wanting to feel, not wanting to feel other aspects of truth. And so that's the essence of this full moon, is opening up places inside of yourself, the feeling aspect very strongly of Cancer that's being highlighted again with three energies that are all conjuncting in Cancer, with the Sun conjunct the North Node, and another key planet is Venus in a 1 degree aspect to the North Node. So Venus is in Cancer in a 1 degree conjunction to the North Node, and then in a direct exact opposition to Saturn in Capricorn, key planet to this an essence of this key planet resonates very strongly. It presides over the meaning and the significance of this full moon partial eclipse, and now in 4 ways. Okay, so I named the full moon ruled by Saturn in Capricorn. The moon is in Capricorn, and that's ruled by Saturn in Capricorn, and Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, and that Venus is in an exact opposition to Saturn, and it's really emphasizing the intensity. It's strengthening the energy of Saturn. And then the 4th way is that Saturn's in a conjunction to Pluto. So phenomenally, we've got on the other end of things, we've got Saturn and Pluto and the moon and the Earth all conjunct in Capricorn, conjuncting the South Node. That's because we've got with Saturn and Pluto in a retrograde right now. It's really emphasizing things are coming up right now, whether they're happening to you outside or inwardly, but most definitely it feels like things are showing up in the environment that could be reflecting back to you. Places that are making you feel uncomfortable, because it's about getting to the truth of the matter of what's happening, and that we are on a timeline. So it's really about wanting to arrive. This full moon is really wanting us to we have to change, and it's up to us. There is again that secondary element of fire to Capricorn gives it it's a spirit frequency. It's a self frequency of like, am I doing everything I need to be doing? What do I need to stop doing? And these times that we're in are very much informing that, because we are all in a wide, greater circle of existence held here on Earth. And we are a biosphere. We are a living, multi-dimensional, organismic sphere of living on all levels, that is really, because of the times we're in and what's happening and how we've been driving reality, the key, how society has been driven is, and what's been ruling society and the societal mind, that is causing a detrimental relationship with the Earth that's been happening already, that needs to be dealt with. And so this is one of the key months of coming to terms with yourself, that really does, and coming to terms with the times, coming to terms with what's happening in your family circle, what's happening inside of you, what's happening in your reality, where you're not showing up, the things that are calling you to show up. And because we're so very much connected to the Earth and what's happening, the environmental issues, the climate issues, the inequality issues, all the issues of dysfunction, and you know what they are. You have a few that immediately come to mind of like, what's dysfunctional on the planet, and what are those big issues that are dysfunctional? We have that is what's ruling the earth, all the decision makers that are making decisions about, you know, how we're dealing with things that aren't functional, they're not healthy. And that's part of how each one of us weaves into the greater collective and the greater issues. We are born to the times. That is how we arrive to our purpose. So there's a purpose being highlighted that wants to be illuminated with this full moon, that you do have a purpose with evolution. You have a purpose with the collective. You have something deep to offer in the way of your passion, in the way of your belief, in the way of that's going to require you to totally come up against your comfort zones, because Capricorn is actually a sign when it's driven, when it's coming out of its comfort zones, it's very much a go-getter. It's a very much pushing, a go-getter in the sense of like pushing the boundaries, stepping out of the comfort zones. I'm going to learn this even though it's really hard for me. So facing your challenges, understanding your challenges so you can face them, because it is a spiritual initiation. It is pushing up. It's about up-leveling yourself. In order to up-level, you've got to really connect into where you're not showing up to your life, where you're showing up to fear, where you keep letting fear lead instead of letting yourself stand up to your fears and go, okay, well, I'm going to do it anyway. Yeah, and not just fear. It's also laziness. It's also lethargy. And the projects that you have in your brain, the things that you see, that your creativity that really wants to come out and be expressed. The sun in Cancer, they're the North Node. It's who you are. It's what you feel deep inside, and that's what's so essential for you to get synchronized with your reality. You've got to feel yourself. You've got to tap into who you are. And so this spiritual initiation, this is like it's definitely like. We are in, and ever more so coming into 2020, we're coming into a planetary initiation into, it's like the spiritual Olympics of you learning how to, as you're coming into emotional mastery and learning what that means for yourself, as you're coming into to really being self-expressed and understanding your gifts, your talents, the things that you're interested in, and what you really want to bring to the table and offer in the ways of your projects and your time, and what's essential for you to really dig deep and find meaning and value. And guaranteed, I really believe that inside of each one of us, in our hearts, we are synchronized with the earth, and the things that we want to offer heal the earth. Because we are not isolated beings. That's one of the delusions that wants to be completely exposed, is like, you are not isolated. None of us are isolated. We are in a state of oneness, in a multidimensional, diverse, highly expressed universe of oneness that has a tremendous amount of individuality. And the gift of being human is that we are designed to be stewards to this planet. And a steward shows kindness and respect and empathy and compassion and reverence and fierceness as well, and courage to really come into self-resolve. So this full moon eclipse is about coming into self-resolve, but it's going to take a rendering of where you're holding back in yourself, and really catching also where you're, it's not about coming down on yourself, but it is also about stepping down from places. Maybe you're too much on a high horse. Maybe you're too much in places of arrogance that are really you hiding from some vulnerability. It's from insecurity. So it's about facing insecurities, because the main timeline that Capricorn wants to illuminate, with Saturn retrograde in Capricorn, Pluto retrograde in Capricorn, the moon in Capricorn conjunct the earth, is like, we are on a timeline. We're going to die someday. You're going to die someday. Are you doing everything you're here to do? Are you standing up to your life? Another way that this is opening up, besides the opposition that's happening, we've got Jupiter as a key planet as well. There's a yod that Jupiter is forming with Venus and with Vesta. Vesta is in the sign. Vesta is a asteroid that is about what you're devoted to, your task, your focus, and very deeply about the task you were devoted to, where it also brings meaning and value and into your life by giving you, it's also got entrepreneurial gifts in there with Vesta. And so with Venus in a quincunx to Jupiter and Vesta in a quincunx to Jupiter, that means Venus and Vesta are in a sextile. So they're in these homey Venus in Cancer and Vesta in Taurus. There's a really interesting relationship to this sextile because Venus rules Cancer. So it's about coming into your beauty, coming into your gifts. This is about coming into your gifts and that's part of the owning up to yourself that's going to hone into you, really making some powerful offerings to your life of things that you love to do that really serve a purpose for you, that help your environment. It's you coming into your craft ever more and coming out because it's in a yod to Jupiter in Sagittarius, and then Jupiter in Sagittarius is making a square to Neptune. It's basically saying that we're reflecting back is a better word than saying, reflecting back to me that we are changing our belief systems. If you change your belief systems, if you adjust your belief systems to a holistic belief system that really embraces creativity and is in a purely solution-oriented mindset. So very solution oriented is very creative and coming up with new ideas. And because Neptune's involved in that, it also involves meditation, tuning into yourself, being a tuning fork. Now, if you look at the planet, if you look at the symbol of Neptune, it's like a tuning fork. So receiving the intuition, receiving the messages that you're getting and learning to synchronize and attune them to a high frequency state. That's going to help you move into, as you feel those inward impulses, spirit impulses to move in new directions. That square that we're inside of, the Jupiter Sag Neptune in Pisces square that we're inside of for the whole year of 2019 speaks to that, of changing your belief systems, opening up in places where you've been shut down. And then again, highlighting the opposition, the Cancer Capricorn opposition conjunct the South and North nodes, owning up to yourself and owning up to where you're not showing up, and also owning up to where you need to show up and push and lean into the places that you're learning and growing. And part of that opposition, in this opposition, there's a key T square. There's a T square with Pallas Athene in the sign of Libra. It's a very sharp T square, and it's sharpest with Venus and with Saturn. So what that tells me there, with Venus and Saturn in an exact opposition, that means they're both at the same degree frequency of their sign. Venus is at 17 degrees Cancer, Saturn's at 17 degrees Capricorn, retrograde. The North node is at 18 degrees Cancer, the South node's at 18 degrees Capricorn, and then Pallas Athene is at 18 degrees Libra. So Pallas Athene is exactly squaring the nodes. It's highly significant. This actually makes this T square the most significant aspect next to the full moon. And that is speaking to Pallas Athene is a strategist. She is a artisan goddess. She's a goddess of war, which speaks to strategy, and she's intellectual, and she really loves insight, and she's very, it's how she uses her intellect. But she is who Pallas Athene is she's the intuition and the intellect. Like the highest vibration of Pallas Athene is she's the intuition and the intellect working together. So if you have your intuition and intellect working together, you're also working with your heart. So this is very transformative. This is about like you uprooting, getting some really coming in clear with yourself, making new agreements in relationships because you're coming in clear. Because Pallas Athene, she's like a dagger of truth. And when you get insight, she's about leading, because she's in a T square, she wants to lead. She's going to help you get here by coming to truth with yourself, speaking your truth, because there's very much an aspect of speaking here because we're in a Mercury retrograde. So the sun is conjunct Mercury retrograde in this partial eclipse chart. So coming into truth with yourself, renegotiating, absolutely having to renegotiate something, whether it's with your, and definitely with yourself, renegotiating, finding your way through, checking yourself too, because Saturn and Capricorn's there to ground you in realities. Maybe you need to go get some advice. You need to go to other people who are who know what they're talking about and that you trust, and maybe get a second opinion or a third opinion. Just get some advice as you're navigating your reality and the decisions you have to make as you're standing up to these new things that you're standing up to. And definitely this is also mentor as well, mentor energy of like, oh my God, I really need help in this area, and I'm getting this about myself now. I need to do it this way, and I'm scared. I've never done this before, or whatever. Like, get the support you need, because that's what Cancer needs, support. So we live in a world of 7.7 billion people. We're living in an information age. We are most definitely in a different world than we were in 100 years ago, and the times are changing, and that's what the Saturn-Pluto conjunction really speaks to, is that we are and how it's affecting you and each one of us is dealing with those places that haven't been dealt with, and coming into truth with oneself so that you can really design your reality in a way that's letting go of the things that you cannot control, but then taking control of the things that are for you to control, and really getting clear about what that means, and it's getting clear with it through your heart. So you have to really use a high quality checking system, to check what it is you can control. Okay, so that's essential to this. We've got Venus involved very strongly with this North Node and leading the way with your heart. This is walking the beauty way. So you synchronizing with your beauty, you synchronizing with your love, is with your self-love, with love itself, with high quality energies of gratitude, compassion, empathy, clarity, firmness as well, like the courage to hear the truth. Also, it's also but it's also a dispassionate. It's not a judgmental, mean, unkind, negative voice. It's really a positive voice. So you've got to check yourself through that voice to come through into your beauty way that's going to help you feel where it is for you to let go and own up to some stuff of like, oh my God, I just can't do that anymore. And because the issue is, there's a key issue here about your time, your energy. It's not about your time, it's about your energy. It's about your energy and what you're giving to. And the more you wake up and really arrive to the present here and now, again, we've got the cardinal energies and Libra really, with Pallas Athene and Libra and that T square that wants to incarnate you. That's the power of T squares. It's a driving energy that has to meet the challenges in the squares and in the opposition. So the opposition, again, both sides now, and then the square is all sides now, but I've got to come through this challenge of getting clear with myself and negotiating and coming through and just getting clear why you're making the decisions that you're making. So, and that you can make, in order for you to make your dreams come true, because we've got Venus involved in here. Venus is the soul. Venus wants to bring you back into harmony with your soul. It's also releasing the ways of this society and coming into your independence and really checking yourself of like, oh my God, this is actually me being socially conditioned. This is me not thinking for myself. It's actually it's the world. It's these things that I was taught that I should be and how I'm supposed to act. But really that's me that's really me covering up. So this really does have to do with, another key energy of Capricorn is overcoming the social conditioning, because there's a secondary rulership of Uranus, and Uranus is a revolutionary. Uranus is about being unconventional, so moving past convention. So this hermit time that we're in, this very inward time that we're in, no matter even if you're still out there engaging the world, we've got many planets retrograde right now. Mercury retrograde right now, Saturn and Pluto retrograde right now, Chiron is retrograde, Jupiter retrograde. That's making it very, very inward right now until we get released from it July 31st, when Mercury, one level of getting released is when Mercury moves out of retrograde on July 31st, and then in September, that's when we get released from the September and October from the Saturn and Pluto being retrograde. So this is an internal time. We are needing to make adjustments and preparing for something coming into the fall. That's when it's going to be a good time to really move forward with a lot of things. So don't move. It's a different time of moving forward. It's a moving forward in going inward and releasing and doing some deep spiritual work with yourself to really come into the here and now, and using your death, that someday you're going to die. And what are you going to regret that you're not doing? What are you going to regret when you're looking back in a key moment and at this time of your life? So use your death, use that reality of that ultimate ending of your life as a way to check yourself. And again, your heart. Check your heart. Are you in synchronization with your soul? Venus conjunct the North Node. That is so important, because Venus is about harmony. And it's about you harmonizing with your own soul, with your own inner child, Cancer, with your feelings, and growing yourself up to a whole new level. This is an up-leveling eclipse season. And we've got to up level to let go. And so in order to let go, we've got to do some deep diving into ourselves, review the past, absolutely review the past, repair in the places that you need to repair. If there's places that are saying, oh, I need to communicate to this person, I need to, and whether they're living or dead, you can own up to it. There's ways to celebrate. There's ways to acknowledge. We need to acknowledge. And that's another way we arrive to our integrity as well. And integrity, I think I like to use the word integral, because integral to me feels more undulating and rhythmical than, it's just, I like the rhythm inside of to be integral. And because that's what it feels like. What it feels like to be in integrity is a rhythm rather than a linear thing and coming into alignment. I don't really like using that word anymore, even though if you can view alignment as an undulating rhythmic energy. So that's where I like the word synchronization. Coming into a synchronized rhythm, soul, spirit, body, mind, intellect, intuition. That is you identifying with your core selfhood, coming into your core drive that lands you fully into your heart and who you are, to inwardly rise you up through your confidence, through your self-belief, through your own self-encouragement, building positive relationships, coming and really birthing a world in which we are working together, because that is what wants to be birthed, is to break down these walls of division that are false. We need to come into healthy structure, absolutely. And that's the right relationship aspect as well that we're coming into right relationship with yourself and your world, in this multidimensional world that you're in. And to come into right relationship with yourself, that means you turning towards yourself and trusting yourself. And also realizing, I also really believe, because these are I'm going to wrap this up soon, but the cardinal signs are I see them as the leadership signs. And so you've got to really stand up to yourself, and we all have leadership abilities. But in different ways, we might have a particular idea of what leadership is, of like, oh, leadership means we've got 200,000 followers or 1 million followers. That's leadership. I don't actually believe that's leadership. I think leadership is quiet and subtle and largely not seen, and it's very private. And so it's how you're leading your life. It's how you're taking initiative, and in the ways you're taking initiative, the things that you're saying unconsciously to yourself. So those things needing to be really come up so that you can get clear with yourself is what you're saying to yourself and why you're choosing what you're choosing, because your leadership wants to choose you and you want to choose your leadership, which is why I believe you're listening to something like this. So another key thing before I leave this video, this post, is that this eclipse is already bringing in the future of the eclipses that are going to happen in December and January. We've got 6 more months before the Saturn-Pluto conjunction of 2020, January 12th, 2020. And it is a powerful conjunction that involves 3 other planets, and it's going to be inside of a full moon eclipse as well on January 10th. The Saturn-Pluto conjunction happens on January 12th, 2020, and then we have a full moon, and it's the Cancer full moon of January 10th, 2020. That's going to be eclipse as well. So these next 6 months, we're doing some very powerful endings and beginnings, and the primary place that we are ending and beginning is in our psychological journey. It's our emotional psychological journey because of the nature of Cancer and Capricorn. We are growing. Capricorn's also a sign of self-realization and self-actualization. And Cancer is about, on the big macro level, it's coming into a tribe, a feeling of oneness with the planet, with the planet, and coming into reverence, coming into deep emotions of gratitude, and to really help grow these places inside of you that are staying inside of patterns that are actually from early childhood karma, drama that is keeping you in trauma and inside of these comfort zones. And even if they're uncomfortable and they're painful, they still become comfort zones. So we're really growing up. It's time to mature. It's time to stand up to ourselves and repair the past of our ancestors, and repair the wrongs of our ancestors. And this is really also taking us into the next 10 years, in which we're going to be doing, I believe the next 10 years, the next 20 years, we're going to be doing repair on the past and the choices that our ancestors made that keep things in dysfunction, because we need to move things back into functionality, because that's the nature of the universe. The nature of the universe is to work together. And that's all, folks. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe to my channel. Email me for readings at starpoweralchemy.com. And wishing you all much love, and appreciate any positive comments, and thanks again for watching.